Confessing with heartthrob. I didn't expect school's bad boy to rip me into his arms. Sorry. My girlfriend has been having a tantrum lately. Roses weave dreams of romance. Chase to see Roses romantic meaning endless. The romance is endless. Be sure to like, comment, retweet, follow, turn on notifications. Beautiful drama on time to embrace. Liked school's bad boy for 3 months. In order to stimulate him, I drummed up the courage and heartthrob confession. Like you, I stammered and opened my mouth to Lucas. Me too, he said mid-sentence. I felt a strong pull and I was pulled into an embrace, followed by a soft touch on my lips. Sorry about that. Girlfriend's been acting up lately. Ethan wrapped his arm around my shoulders and looked up at Lucas with total provocation in his eyes. Hey. You stay away from her. Ethan is a troublemaker from Maple Street. It's also across the street from my house. Ethan was fixing his bike in front of his house. He was wearing a white tank top, revealing wheat-colored skin and tight muscles. He seems to be tired. He took the mineral water on the ground and drank from it. Slightly panting breath. Sliding throat knot. It made my breath stutter. He turned his head. The moment I met his gaze, I hurriedly staggered away and ran home. The second time I met him, I was in a particularly sorry state. I braced myself to get up from the floor after being bullied. The cut hem of my dress waved in the air, slightly revealing its lining. I held onto the wall and walked out step by step. I didn't expect to meet him at the alleyway entrance. He was leaning against the wall, looking down and lighting a cigarette with his lighter. The scarlet color of his fingertips flickered on and off. I pretended not to see him and continued walking towards the alleyway entrance. Obviously, I wanted to quickly escape his sight before I accelerated my pace. I didn't realize I'd botched it. My injured knee gave way and I fell to my knees. There was no pain as expected. I fell into a warm embrace. Ethan extinguished his cigarette at some point and took me into his arms. The smell of tobacco surrounded me with his cold breath. Can you stand up? I blushed a little and stood up with all my strength, not realizing that I fell into his arms again. He laughed softly. Don't push yourself if you can't stand up. He let me lean against the wall. He took off his jacket and tied it around my waist. He turned around and half squatted in front of me. Come up. I hesitated but got on his back. His small arms hooked around my legs. I leaned against his back. My heart raced. I wondered if he heard me. Here it is. He crouched down and I slowly propped myself up off of him and stood up. I realized he was red from his neck to his ears. Thank you for today. From now on, if you get bullied, call out to someone. Don't say nothing. He looked at me a few more times and turned his head back to the house. I picked up the key and prepared to open the door. But I didn't expect the door inside to open first. My mom froze for a moment when she saw my messy appearance. Come on in. Then without saying anything, she rubbed me down and helped me to the dining room table. The next morning, I was sitting at the dining table eating breakfast. My mom suddenly opened her mouth. From now on, you'll go to and from school with that son of the Chen family. I've already said hello to your Uncle Chen. My hand holding the spoon paused at the edge of my mouth. Mom? Is this bad? What's wrong with that? Ethan drove you home yesterday. Right? I know all about it. That kid is quite good. Suitable to be my son-in-law. Mom. Okay. 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 I grabbed a bottle of milk and limped out the door. Ethan was sitting on the steps in front of my house, waiting. When he heard the door open, he stood up and walked over to me, helping me into the back seat of my bike. There clearly wasn't that back seat yesterday. I tugged at the corner of his shirt. I thought you boys didn't like to have a back seat. Adolescent boys love to be cool. And there's no telling how many girls' secret crushes they can get just by pedaling a mountain bike. He knocked me on the head. What do you know? That's because they don't have a girl. Cough. There's no one they can carry. I got in his back seat. Sit tight. Well, sit still. Before the words were out of my mouth, the bike moved forward like the wind, as reckless and flamboyant as a teenager. The sudden recoil made me hug Ethan's waist tightly. Ethan. Slow down. Slow down. The bike really slowed down, and I let go of his waist and regained my hold on the back of the bike. The bike drove all the way into the campus and I watched as the girls cast envious glances at me. I shyly turned my head away, pretending not to see, and just looked at my teenager's white shirt. It was obviously a 10-minute ride, but it felt so long. Get off the bus. Can't stand still. I hurt both knees. Ethan sighed softly. I can't do anything about it. Ethan helped me to the classroom, and as soon as he left, all the girls in the class gathered around. Leafy. What's your relationship with Ethan? Neighbors. Just regular neighbors. His dad asked him to help give me a ride when I got hurt the last few days. They asked a few more questions, but when they realized they couldn't get anything out of it, they left. I stayed back and cleaned up after school for 20 minutes. Not knowing if Ethan had left yet, I limped out, not realizing I was blocked in first. Amber flicked her fingertips across my face and suddenly cupped my chin. Say, what's your relationship with Ethan? Neighbors. With a look of disbelief. Her eyes grew malicious and she turned her head for sidekick to get the disinfectant on the floor. I pushed her away as hard as I could while she wasn't looking and cried out. Help! Help! I limped along, my heart in my mouth. Looking back, Amber had already unscrewed the bottle of disinfectant and was pouring it over me. I hurriedly closed my eyes and turned my head away. The next moment I hit a warm chest. I look up slightly and slowly open my eyes. The hair on top of my head brushing against his stubble. He held my head down. Don't move. It tickles. It was Ethan. He pulled his school uniform jacket over me, the disinfectant falling mostly onto it. I was smothered in his arms when I heard him say, "Don't you dare touch her again." After that day, Lila was Ethan's girl. The rumor spread throughout the campus. Introducing. This is the new interloper in our class. Clean. Crisp inches. Duffel bag slung loosely over his shoulder. Hi everyone. I'm Ethan. The people at the bottom whispered. Ethan held back a grade? I heard he had a disciplinary record and wanted to start fresh. So he voluntarily held back a grade and surprised Dean Miller. The front desk turned to me and asked, "Don't you know Ethan well?" "Yes. I do." Ethan pulled out the empty seat next to me and sat down. Turning to me, he said, "What do you think?" "Ye student." The front table looked at the two of us with an expression of eating melon. I hurriedly waved my hand. Just acquaintance. Since the first class. Ethan was sleeping, his jacket over his head. Not the slightest bit of start fresh. School was over, and Ethan was the only one left who hadn't turned in his homework. I poked him. He frowned at me. "What's wrong? You haven't turned in your English homework." "No. Write it now. I'll wait for you." He froze, not expecting me to say that. He took out his exercise book slowly. "Then wait for me. Bite-o ye. It's really a wait. He takes 10 minutes to do what others take half an hour to do. You'll be penalized by the teacher for scribbling like that." "Never mind." He stood up and picked up my bag and headed out. "Let's go. I'll take you home." The next day Ethan wasn't penalized for copying. But a minute before the bell rang, the English teacher suddenly opened his mouth. "Ching ching. Ethan just transferred here. His English foundation is not solid. You bring him along more." "Okay. Teacher." I turned my head and Ethan was looking at me with a smile on his face. "What are you looking at?" "It's all because of you." He put his hands behind his head. "Yes. Yes. Yes. It's all my fault. From now on I'll be worshipping Mr. Toya." So every day after school I doubled up as Ethan's tutor. "What do you want to fill in this blank?" "I don't know." "Look. There's a Q word in front of you. So fill in the comparative here. Do you understand?" I looked up at him and realized that he was so close to me that if I looked up a little I could touch the tip of his nose. All of a sudden I felt my ears burning. You stay away from me. As a result, he leaned even closer. Like this? Mr. Yi. You're blushing. I grabbed the test paper and glued it to his face. Study hard. Yes, sir. As my injury slowly healed, it seemed like there was no reason for me to take Ethan's car anymore. Another morning, I walked up to Ethan's bike and hesitated to get on. What are you waiting for? Get on. Ethan. I think I'm getting better. I'm not used to no one riding in my back seat. Get on. I got on the back of his bike and wrapped my arms around his waist. As always, I rode into the campus, drawing a lot of sideways glances. It was time. We've been given an appointment. Principal Johnson slammed his teacup down. Let's have you held back a grade. What happened to the promised start fresh? It's rumored all over school that you and Lila are in love. Is that true? Yes. No. Two voices rang out at the same time and I glared at Ethan, signaling him to keep his mouth shut. He still hooked a smile. Principal Johnson took a sip of tea. Boys and girls can get along normally with each other. But don't cross the line. I heard that your English teacher arranged for you to tutor Ethan? Yes. Do a good job. Don't slow down your studies. Especially you, Ethan. Don't bring down the good students. Do you hear me? Yes. Principal Zhang. Rumor has it that Ethan and Dean Miller have a good relationship. So it seems to be true. Is it from rivalry to affection? Leaving the office, Ethan and I walked one behind the other. Ethan. I think the teacher is right. The most important thing for us now should be to study. We should keep a distance. I won't ride in your car from now on. Before he could finish his sentence, he fixed his footsteps and turned back. And I was standing right in front of him. He bent down slightly. Do you like me? No. Then why are you panicking? It's just a car ride. Besides, I'm used to it. Principal Johnson said that men and women can get along normally. So I don't think it's a big deal. Right? Mr. Yi. It does seem like I'm the one who's being a thief. That said, is it possible to fall in love with Mr. Yi without affecting your studies? He lowered his head and looked at me seriously. My mind was so confused that I could only hear the sound of my heartbeat. I hurriedly pushed him away. It's getting late. My mom is going to be waiting. As the end of the semester approached, Ethan was getting into a better state of learning. Not sleeping in class and listening attentively. It was a sweltering summer day, with non-stop cicadas chirping. It was bad. I had a fever. That's right. On a hot day. Groggy in math class. Mr. Liu was writing and drawing on the chalkboard. And my eyelids were too heavy to open. Until a nudge on my elbow. Shouting you up to do the problem. Ethan whispered to remind me. I gave him a look of thanks. I never thought I'd have a day when he reminded me. Walking up to the podium, I looked at the questions, which were obviously very basic. Having done similar types of questions, and all of a sudden I couldn't remember how to do them. I squeezed the chalk tightly and my palms kept sweating. Who should I call next to this question? I can do this one. Mr. Teacher. I'll do it. It was Ethan. He came over to me and quickly wrote down his thoughts. But at the moment I didn't have a clue. I was getting nervous and wanted to tell the teacher that I didn't know how to do this question. When Mr. Liu turned to look at his classmates, Ethan quickly wrote down the key steps under my question. I wrote along with him and found the feeling. I got both questions right. It seems that the tables have been learning from each other properly these days. I was relieved to be saved by Ethan today. I tried to thank him after school, but he got dragged off to play basketball as soon as the bell rang. Oh yeah, there's a basketball game today. But I don't really care about that stuff. But Ethan forgot his water cup, which he brings with him to every basketball game. In the spirit of humanitarianism, I went to the basketball court anyway. Looking at the crowd, it was hard to squeeze in. 3 points. I looked over at the sound of cheering. And there was Ethan in his red jersey. wiping away sweat and high-fiving his teammates. I watched the whole game without noticing. Looking at Ethan, who was surrounded by the end of the game. I looked at the glass of water in my hand and suddenly realized that there seemed to be nothing left for me to do. Ready to leave. A pair of black sneakers stopped in front of me. Looking up, Ethan looked at me with a smile on his face. Come to bring me water? He took the glass of water from my hand, took a couple sips and shoved it back into my arms. Keep the water delivery station closer from now on. I almost couldn't find you. Too many people bring you water. He rubbed the top of my hair. I'll find you then. Since that day my relationship with Ethan has become a little different. He was self-conscious enough to stay after school and study with me every day. I also inexplicably went to the basketball court to bring him water. An ambiguous atmosphere spread between us. The boys in the class have recently become obsessed with reading horror comics. And they like to scare girls the most. I also suffered miserably. I had just sat down and was about to get a book when Chao San handed it over with a comic book. Before I could read the content, my eyes were covered by a pair of big warm hands. Don't look. Then his slightly cold voice was heard. Chao San. Your skin is itching. Isn't it? After a while Ethan let go of his hand. Chao San's group of people had already gone somewhere. You didn't see them just now. Did you? I didn't see it. That's good. Ethan. Someone is looking for you. We looked out the window at the same time. And there was a cute schoolgirl standing outside with a slightly blushing expression that made me want to get lost in thought. After school that day, I returned to my class after dropping off my homework. But I didn't see Ethan. I only saw a note left on my desk. And the words were as flashy as the person. I have to go beforehand. Remembering that I hadn't bought my teaching aids, I went to the library alone. On the way home, I ran into two people. Ethan and that girl. They were walking side by side. The girl eating ice cream. Ethan smiling dotingly at her. The spot on his shoulder no longer belonging to my book bag but a purple one. They were so likable that they made passers-by look sideways. I went around the other way and walked home at a fast pace. Ethan messaged me so much that I purposely ignored him. The next day everyone was talking about Ethan. Hey. Ching Ching. You're at Ethan's table. Do you know that he recently got a new girlfriend? Well, she's a good match. Good match. My ass. Ethan grabbed me and headed straight for the deserted stairwell. Lila. Is that why you're so upset with me? It was you I met yesterday. Wasn't it? Did you go to the library to buy a book? That person was my cousin. His flurry of explanations messed me up for a second and I didn't know how to answer him back. He looked at me flustered as if he understood something and looked at me and laughed out softly. After school he picked up my bag and slung it over his shoulder. Let's go. Home. Ethan was riding so fast that all you could hear was the wind. I don't know where I got the courage to say those words. Ethan. I like you. What did you say? I turned up the volume. I said. Ethan. Ride faster. Ethan sped up. And the wind blew the hem of his coat, stirring up the young girl's feelings. The stars were bright at night. Ethan and I sat on the grass, while the couple next to us played Wu Bei's Summer Night Breeze on the stereo. The evening breeze on a summer night. Blowing you in my arms. Your hair is fluffy. I'm wrapped up in the wind. And I'm swaying. The moon hangs in the starry sky. I'm holding you in my arms. The wind that smells of you. That's the love I'm still waiting for. I turned my head to look at Ethan, who had beautiful eyes, light brown pupils like autumn maple leaves, falling on my heart. Ethan. Let's go to the same university. Okay. His eyes lit up the darkness of the sky in the silent night. I think I have a crush on Ethan. Hey. You and Ethan aren't together yet? Hannah. My best friend. Joked in my ear as she put her arm around my shoulder. I don't know if he likes me. Stupid pig. He drives you to and from school every day. Brings you breakfast every day. Gives you hot water after class and ties your shoes. What's that if he doesn't like you? Hannah looked at my face and sighed with a look of hatred. Yeep. Someone is looking for you. Ethan stood by the window with my cup in his hand. No. Hot water, he said, rubbing my hair and turning his head away. I covered the cup of water and felt a heavy warmth. Not only the warmth transmitted by the hot water. Hannah's words just now rang in my ears. Why don't you stimulate him and see how he reacts? I was idly walking around the campus when I looked up and saw Lucas. Well, I knew exactly how to stimulate that big wooden guy. So with a 3-month crush on school's bad boy, I asked Heartthrob out. I stammered and confessed to Lucas. Mr. Lucas. I like. The words were not finished. I was pulled over by Ethan and kissed him on the head. The kiss was superficial. Before I came back to my senses, I heard him say provocatively to Lucas. Sorry. Girlfriend's been having a tantrum lately. I quietly curled my lips. I'll be sure to thank Hannah later. On the way home, I deliberately asked him. Ethan, why did you say I was your girlfriend? I like you. What did you say? I didn't hear you. He said it louder this time. I said Ethan likes Lila. I wrapped my arms tighter around his waist. Me too. I was with Ethan. Quietly. He still brings me hot water every day and people think he's still after me. I went to Ethan's room every day to do my homework on the pretext of giving him extra lessons. Ethan was a fast learner. And he knew the answers to a lot of problems just by looking at them. He also understood the problems very quickly when I explained them to him. I sat in front of the desk and lowered my head to explain the math problems to him. He leaned very close to me and his hot breath sprayed on my ears. I couldn't help but feel my heart beating faster. Mr. Yi. Why are your ears red? He leaned even closer. I turned my head and accidentally brushed his lips. Mr. Yi. Don't look at me like that. I can't stand it. I hurriedly got up, not realizing that I tripped and fell into his arms. Then I heard him say through gritted teeth. Lila. I'm a normal man. Then he put me in my seat and gave me a big kiss before he left. Ethan progressed quickly. And on the midterm exam he was in the top 5 in the class. Staggering everyone. Zhang Lei came over with the report card. Brother Chen. What kind of magic pills did you take? How did you score so high? Mr. Yi taught you well. Ethan looked at Zhang Lei proudly. Why don't you ask Mr. Yi to teach me too? I can't. It's my family's. No one noticed that Amber, who was passing by, was secretly squeezing the test paper tightly. Ethan was on vacation for the past few days. And I was targeted on the first day I went home alone. Recently the lights on the way home were broken. I was a little scared walking alone on the road, feeling that someone is following me behind. But looking back to see nothing, I nervously put my hand into my pants pocket and took out my cell phone to call Ethan. Do. Hello. The hoarse voice on the other end just came out. My cell phone was tapped heavily and my whole body was pulled into the dark alley. Half of my face was tightly covered by a rough hand. And I whimpered out in terror as I looked at the visitor in front of me. Hey. Sister Qian. The person is already here with me. Aha. Good. Then the groundhog smoking a cigarette in front of me put his hand to my face and slid it around, cupping my chin. What's the best way to do it? What do you say? Little girl? Tears welled up in my eyes. My struggles useless against the disparity of strength. His hands held on to my waist. My body kept trembling. The next second his entire body was kicked down in place as Ethan pinned him to the ground and punched him. I relaxed. My whole body paralyzed in place along the wall. Brother. I was wrong. Spare me. Which hand touched her? Don't tell me? Then both hands will be ruined. Left hand, said Ethan while his left hand twisted hard. The man on the ground let out a painful scream. Immediately after that Ethan lifted his right hand again. Why do I see it's the right hand? Brother. Please let me go. The man said, trembling. Who sent you? Amber. Ethan wiped the blood from his hand with a piece of paper. His eyes obscure. My pupils constricted at the name. And Ethan walked over to me, taking off his black jacket and wrapping it around me, wiping the tears from the corners of my eyes gently with his fingertips. Ching ching. I'm coming. I couldn't stop the tears from flowing again. Ethan picked me up in a cross-body hug, his green stubble brushing across my forehead every now and then, and it was only then that I noticed the fatigue on his face. Ethan. Is Auntie feeling better? I wrapped my arms around him. Ethan. Can I meet you after school for homework? Ethan took a moment before answering. Okay. Auntie. I'm coming. Hey. Ching Ching. Chen's mother was lying on the hospital bed, looking at me with a kind face. The nurse took her for a checkup in a few moments. Ethan was peeling an apple by the bedside, his slender fingers sliding smoothly. When he saw me sitting down, he cut out a piece of apple and shoved it into my mouth. I gave him an annoyed look and took out my homework to write. Sitting at the small table in the hospital room, Ethan sat over at some point, the faint smell of tobacco wrapping around me and distracting me a little. This is the wrong step. Ethan tapped me on the head. I snapped back to my senses and took out my correction tape to fix it. What was Mr. Yi thinking? I blushed and didn't say anything. It's not me you're thinking about, is it? I elbowed him hard. Revise properly, Ethan said in pain. Lila, you murdered your own husband. Ethan's cell phone vibrated on the table and I looked over. But Ethan took it first. On it vaguely shows that the bank card has been credited with $50. 000. Could this be a new type of fraud? On the way home, Ethan carries my pink school bag and holds my hand. His hand was wide and strong, and he felt very secure when he held it. And he always liked to rub my hand carefully when he held it. I looked at him and then ahead. Ethan turned his head around. Just say what you have to say. I watched as he stammered out his words. Ethan. Have you been working part-time lately? There's been a bit of scams lately, so you need to be careful, I said to myself. Ethan laughed softly and stopped walking. I followed suit. He leaned over and slowly approached me, his forehead pressed against mine. And all of a sudden his eyelashes were clearly visible. And I met his eyes as if I could see my own confused self in his eyes at this moment. Don't worry about it, students. Legal and legitimate income. Saved savings for marriage. His breath was so close. The sound of my heartbeat disrupted my consciousness. I didn't hold back and slightly tilted my head to press my lips against his. He clasped my head and deepened the kiss. Lila. You won't be able to walk away from me anymore. News of Amber's withdrawal spread quickly. Some said she ran off with her sugar daddy. Others said she couldn't hang out in this part of town and transferred. As I turned the pen in my hand, I recalled that day with fear. If Ethan hadn't arrived in time, what would have been the outcome? I don't dare to think. Leaf. Do you know? I heard that Ethan has recently gotten close to Jake, the boss of our area. Jake. The legendary boss of this area. A man of the Jianghu. Idle all day long. Following the boss behind the work. Likes to meddle in other people's business. Can't stand to see others bullying the old, the weak, the sick and the handicapped. And from time to time fights with those who love bullying punks. In this way he is a man of temperament. But how did Ethan end up with him? Where did you hear that? It's all over the posters. Right? Look. Tang Yi took out her cell phone and showed me a picture. In the photo, Ethan's hand was resting leisurely on the back of the chair next to him. The black studs on his ear bones were very bright, and the cigarette in his other hand was glowing scarlet. He turned his head and was joking with Jake. There were many more pictures of Ethan and Jake underneath, including one of Ethan and a red-haired girl, the two of them leaning close to each other, looking down and not knowing what they were talking about. I was in a trance looking at the pictures, but I still managed to finish my afternoon classes. Being in love can really affect your studies if you're not careful. I sighed at the sky as I walked home. I lowered my head and messaged Ethan again. I'm not going to the hospital today. What's wrong? I replied as I stopped and remembered that I was having dumplings at home tonight. My mom called me home to make dumplings. Okay. When I got home, Ms. Chen had made a huge pile of dumplings. So it wasn't my turn. After I had eaten my fill, Ms. Chen brought a thermos bag from somewhere. This is for Ethan's mom and Ethan's Ang. I'll bring it to them later. I wanted to refuse. But when I saw the look in Miss Chen's eyes, only had to silently say, yes, sir. When we arrived at the hospital, only Mrs. Chen was alone. Ching Ching is here. Ethan just left, saying he has to go home. Auntie, I'll leave the dumplings here. I'll go back and do my homework first. Hey, good. Good girl, Ching Ching. Go now. When I left the hospital room, I called Ethan. It took a while for the other side to pick up. Hello. It was a woman's voice. My heart instantly went cold. Is Ethan there? Please? The person snorted. Ethan's in the shower. There was a lot of noise over there, which was obviously false. And Ethan's voice was faintly heard. I calmed down and asked again. Where's Ethan? Okay. I'm not kidding. Kid. Ethan. Come pick up the phone. Soon I heard Ethan's voice. Ethan's voice was a little muffled. Probably because he had been drinking. Hello? Where are you? XX bar. I'm here for you. I hung up and called a car. Careless. I was stopped in front of the bar. Ethan called. Where are you? Turn around and walk 4 steps. See the yellow line. Go 10 steps to the right. I kept my head down and counted along the yellow line. 9 steps. 10 steps. I hit a chest. Sorry. I hurriedly took 2 steps backward and looked up into Ethan's eyes full of laughter. He wrapped his arm around my waist and brought me forward a bit. Had been drinking and the smell of alcohol he carried with him made me a little dizzy. Who's the woman you're with? Is MS. Ye jealous? I buried my head and didn't say anything. He flicked me on the head. It's already dark. Who authorized you to come to me? What if you're in danger? Then you're still going to the bar at night. Ethan proudly flashed his ID. I'm an adult. Thinking about the embarrassment of being stopped just now made me even more angry. And I stomped on him and turned my head to leave. He followed a few steps behind me and then stepped forward to take my hand. The person who answered the phone was Jake's girlfriend. Jake was there. She was joking. So you answered it for her? Don't be mad. Grandpa. I won't let anyone else answer my phone from now on. Okay? I kept walking without saying anything. Ethan pulled me into his arms, leaned down and buried his head in the crook of my neck, and said sullenly, Babe. I was wrong. Don't be mad. I said and rubbed it twice. Don't you move. It tickles. He slipped his hand into my bodysuit, his slightly cool fingertips making my scalp tingle. How about this? Does it tickle? Ethan. I'm going to get mad. Ethan pulls his hand out and hugs me tightly. Don't make a scene. Emily won't get mad. Okay? I smothered myself in his arms and replied. On the way. Ethan told me how he met Jake. He worked under Jake, doing some repairs and labor. And the $50,000 was for a few months' worth of work. Jake often called him to go drinking. He pushed several times. Today his birthday he came. That phone call was answered by Jake's girlfriend without his permission. And he didn't hear it when he dropped his cell phone on the couch. And he said something about her afterward. I rubbed my nose in some guilt. Misunderstood him. Ethan took me to meet his friends. And that Jake's girlfriend, the girl who answered my call last time, wasn't as difficult as I thought she would be. And took me into her arms as soon as we met. Finally. I get to meet you. Little girl. Zoe cupped my face and sipped. So sweet. So soft. So cute. Come home with me. Not Ethan. Ethan turned to Jake with a dark look on his face. Mind your woman. Jake waved his hand. I can't help it. My sibling is too cute. I sat obediently beside Ethan and drank with him. His hand on the back of my chair, pinching my face from time to time. Sometimes even worse. But also close to kiss. After 3 rounds of drinking, the crowd left the venue. But Ethan seemed to be drunk and stayed in his seat. Sister-in-law. Can you do it alone? I looked at Ethan and nodded. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. As it turns out, I thought wrong. How is a drunk Ethan more clingy? When the people in the box were all gone, Ethan buried his head in my arms and grunted. Babe, don't go. I poked his face. Ethan's face was soft and I took the opportunity to kiss him, not realizing that I looked up and bumped into his clear eyes. The drunkenness I just felt was no longer there. Ethan, you're pretending to be drunk. He laughed softly and let out a leaning down and kissing, deep and long. I tasted the faint flavor of fruit wine. Ethan ended up carrying me home. I was sleepy as hell. Luckily there was no one home tonight and no curfew. I lolled on Ethan's back and watched as he took a confused sip from his ears, which were red from drinking. Feeling Ethan stiffen, I burst out laughing on his back. Ethan lurched his back. You're not going to be allowed to go home if you keep it up. I was instantly silenced, and obediently did not move, accompanied by the summer cicadas. I do not know how many days and nights ushered in the college entrance exam season. How many days of hard work. The college entrance exam season is also known as the breakup season. But the latter has nothing to do with us. We got into the same university. How I did not expect Ethan to be able to overachieve. Ethan touched my head and said. Even God is helping us. After the college entrance exams, Ethan was even more unrestrained, and he would come up to me any time when no one was around. It wasn't long before we were on the campus forum. The couple in school is so sweet. Attached is a picture of Ethan feeding me octopus dumplings. Help. They're a good match. I'll take this question. That guy buys breakfast downstairs in the dormitory every day and waits for his girlfriend. I'm super jealous. I heard they've been together since high school. I won't tell you who's envious. I was looking at my cell phone screen. Ethan bought a cup of bubble tea and put a straw in it and brought it to my mouth. I took a sip and frowned. Why is it hot? Little grandpa, did you forget your period is coming? I'll drink it if you want, Ethan said, taking back the bubble tea and sipping it happily. Babe's had it and it's sweeter. I kicked him. He cupped my ankle in his arms and leaned over to kiss my forehead. I have class later, so I'll leave you alone. Time flew by and all of a sudden it was exam week. In order to keep Ethan from interrupting my studies, I decided to stay away from men for the next week and focus on my studies. Listen up. Don't come near me for the next week. Stay within a 10-meter radius of me. I'm going to study hard. Ethan looked at me with a spoiled look on his face. Yes, sir. In the next few days, he didn't come near me. But every time, he appeared at exactly 10 meters away from me and watched me, or studied with me silently there. At the end of the day, there would be one more cup of hot bubble tea with a note on the table. To Emily. I was so touched. As a result, on the night after the exam, I was kissed by Ethan, the big bad guy, in the corner. And I couldn't breathe. Then the results came out. Ethan was first. Layla second. I looked at the rankings and fell into a deep thought. Over the weekend Jake and his girlfriend came over for a visit and we had a dinner date. Zoe was as enthusiastic as ever, pulling my hand and sticking it to me as soon as we met, and giving me a kiss, causing Ethan to rush to take me into his arms to keep her away from me. Petty. Zoe whined as she wrapped her arms around Jake. Jake pinched Zoe's face and took their seats together. Jake and Ethan had to drive so they didn't drink. But I was coaxed by Zoe to drink a lot of fruit punch. It wasn't too strong. But why did I feel dizzy? Without realizing it, I leaned into Ethan's arms, and Ethan played with my hair while talking to Jake. The meal ended and Ethan and Jake went for a drive. Ethan was very competitive and made a lot of money doing a few projects with other people, and spent the whole day circling me in his arms, saying, "We need to hurry up and marry Ching Ching." But at this point I fell into the hands of Zoe, who took my arm and said with a look of emotion, "You don't know how hard Ethan worked to get into the same university as you. Sometimes Ken let him go to work. He still brought his study materials with him, and took advantage of the free time to learn more. But also entrusted Jake to find a few buddies who got into a good university to give him tuition. And it's really a great relief to see you guys together." I heard half of the sobering up. The corner of my eyes slowly red. To Zoe Hull anxious. Hey. Don't cry. Ethan's going to come after me later. Ethan pulled up and Zoe and I got in the car after saying our goodbyes. Ethan saw my eyes were red and touched my head. What's wrong? Did Zoe bully you? I hugged him and muffled. Ethan. He paused and turned to hug me tightly. What's wrong? I whispered. I love you. He said as if he hadn't heard me. Sticking close to me. Can I walk you back to your dorm? I want to go to your house. Ethan's eyes darkened as he looked at me. As soon as we entered the house, Ethan carried me to the couch and tried to get up to get some water. I wrapped my arms around his neck and wouldn't let him go. I met his eyes and just didn't say anything. Feeling the slight heat of his neck, he tilted his head just enough to reveal slightly reddened ears. Ching ching. Don't look at me like that. I can't stand it. I whispered against his ear. Ethan. I'm an adult. Have you thought about it? Yeah. I think so. That Chinese New Year? Ethan and I went back to my hometown together. And he tied a red scarf for me. It was snowing outside the house at some point. I ran out to see it excitedly. And Ethan followed me, telling me to slow down. It wasn't long before Ethan and I both had a thin layer of snow on our heads. Ethan took my hand and looked at me reverently and said, Lila, will you be with me until the end of time? I do. My voice was firm and powerful amidst the sound of firecrackers. I don't know which house set off the fireworks. And as they blossomed, Ethan looked down and kissed me on the lips. And I felt a cold ring on my ring finger. I felt a cold ring slip onto my ring finger. At that moment, I knew I was going to grow old with the boy I met at 17. At 17, the summer cicadas chirped and the hem of the boy's coat blew up. The wind carried my words I like you to his ears. Who moved his heart first? Only the wind knows. End of text. Extra. Ethan's perspective. My name is Ethan. Not Maple Street's troublemaker. But that little girl's nickname for me because I didn't give her the lollipop in her hand when she was little. Actually, I tried to tell her that the lollipop had expired. She didn't listen to my explanation and went home crying to her mom. I got scolded by my dad. She's quite cute. She likes kittens and flowers. I've fantasized about talking to her countless times. I didn't realize it was when I was fixing the car. Noticed she kept looking at me. Wanted to say hello to her. But the person ran straight away. The second time we met was something I didn't expect. The first time I wanted to protect a girl so much. Really heartbroken for her. After bringing her home, I told Dad. I'll send her to and from school from now on. Dad looked at me and didn't say anything. He said he'd ask his future mother-in-law. He really agreed. I didn't sleep a wink. I took out my latest school uniform and hung it above my bed. I put a back seat on my bike. The thought of her sitting on the back of my bike made me so happy. The first time I gave her a ride I didn't control the speed and rode too hard, scaring her. I didn't expect her to panic and hug me around the waist. And I even wished she would do it more often. When I arrived at school, Chow San's group even laughed at the back of my bike. I disliked it without mercy. You guys are just envious that old me has a girlfriend. After saying this, Chow San chased after me to ask who I am. All of a sudden I have a girlfriend of the matter are spread. Not to tell them who is. I'm not going to tell them who it is. I'll keep my own treasure to myself. Ye students were bullied again. Fortunately I bumped into. This time no to call out to people. Amber. I'm going to get rid of them all sooner or later. I have decided to hold back a grade. Principal Zhang all day long to fool me hold back a grade to read well. With the disciplinary record down. Also because I can protect her a little bit. For the first time, someone took the initiative to wait for me to do my homework. The English teacher asked her to tutor me after class. Which was just what I wanted. She didn't realize how serious she was when she was teaching the questions. She was obviously too enthralled by what she was saying and was afraid that I wouldn't understand. So she had to blame me. What can I do? Ye students panicked. I know she has a little feeling for me. She is weak. I know she has some feelings for me. And she's a little weak. I'm going to drink only the water that he sends me for the first time today. He said she wants to go to the same university as me. Well, I'll get in if I have to. It's really too good for her. Hannah told me she's going to confess to another guy. When did you like him? Why didn't I know? Luckily it passed. Otherwise she'd be someone else's in the next second. I couldn't resist kissing her. She's really soft. It's been a long time since I've hit someone. I promised her I wouldn't get hurt a long time ago. But this time I really couldn't resist teaching that asshole a lesson. How dare he? If I had come a little later, I wouldn't have dared to think about it. I really don't know what I'd do if I really lost her. That stupid girl obviously scared herself. But she still cares about my mom. I wish I could marry her sooner. She said she wanted to find me after school to do my homework. I know she wants to help me with my tutoring. She wants to have a future with me. So do I. Ye students thought I was being scammed. Babe cared about me. Happily. Got Jake to gather evidence and sent Amber in. Didn't know she was hiding so much until we looked into it. It's enough for her to eat for a few years. Jake's girlfriend's itchy hand answered my call, causing me to be misunderstood. It's a blessing in disguise. Seeing my little ancestor jealous of me. It's really cute. Pretending to be drunk didn't fool Babe. It's hard. Ye students have grown up. Can tease people? Sooner or later. She will be cleaned up. We got into the same university. Honestly, I couldn't even think about it before. Even my dad thought I'd have to work in a garage for the rest of my life. Maybe in a way. Layla is my salvation. A savior sent from heaven to save me. I have to say those pictures on the forum are pretty good. There are so few photos of us together. We need to take more in the future. Babe has to concentrate on her exams. Can't disturb her. Finally, I finished my exams and ate her. I heard her say I love you very clearly. I didn't dare to respond for fear of tears coming out first. She said she had thought it over. I was really happy that night. I really loved her. I couldn't think of too many ways to be romantic. But I remembered she said she likes to watch fireworks. She had fireworks put on. She said she would like to be with me till the end of our lives. The ring just fits. I remember how careful I was when I took her measurements while she was asleep. It's okay. It's okay. She was there the whole time. Extra. Before and after the wedding. I've never seen Ethan so nervous. Even when he returned to his alma mater to give a speech as an honors student, he was at ease. At this point, he had tried on no less than 10 suits in front of his closet. Ethan. Come on. I'm dying to get my suit on. Babe. What about this one? Oh. You haven't met my mom. No. It's different this time. I then looked at him seriously. Really? This is the one. It makes you look good. Ethan straightened his collar and looked in front of the mirror. Are you sure? Absolutely. Good. My mom wasn't surprised to see him and took him by the hand and led him home. We're all neighbors. We'll be family from now on. What kind of gift are you bringing? Auntie. It's the right thing to do. Don't call me Auntie. Call me Mom. Hey. Mom. I knew you were my future son-in-law the first time I saw you. I'm telling you. Ching Ching loves you so much that she made dried flowers the first time she gave them to her. And now she can't even throw them away. Mom. Ethan turned his head and looked at me meaningfully. Is that so? I couldn't get out an while my mom went to get a fruit. Ethan bent down, pressed himself against me and said, so my classmate Ching Ching likes me that much. I met his eyes and said without hiding anything. Yes. I like you that much. I saw Ethan freeze. As if he didn't expect me to say that. The emotion in his eyes exploded like fireworks. Exposing it to me. The next moment he heard my mom come home and took my hand in a serious manner. Ching Ching. Take Ethan to watch TV. I'll go make dinner first. Ah. Mom. Let me help you. No. It's just one dish. You and Ching Ching go watch TV. I was the happiest person in the world. Holding the kitten that I adopted with Ethan in my arms. And the orange that Ethan peeled in my hand. Watching TV one bite at a time. So comfortable. Dad came home at some point. And as soon as he hung up his coat, Ethan stood up to say hello. He was so serious that he almost curtsied. I let out a giggle. I saw my dad pat him on the shoulder. You're the one who's been driving Emily home, right? Yes. You're a good boy. Let's get drunk tonight. Dad usually doesn't drink much. But today he was really happy. And even took out some old wine that he hadn't been able to drink. Seeing that Mom and Dad were both happy with Ethan, I was instantly relieved. But that's true. The man that Lila, had my eye on could not possibly be bad. My dad and Ethan kept drinking while my mom and I watched TV in the living room. It didn't end until both of them were drunk as hell. He was muttering under his breath when Mom dragged Dad into the room. You boys make sure you treat her right. I blushed for a moment. Time went by really fast. And all of a sudden they had gray hair. I looked at Ethan, who was lying on the table, for a long time. Then poked him in the face. He slowly regained consciousness. Babe, take me home. Ethan and his house was just a block away from Maple Street. I held his hand as we walked down the street. It didn't take long for him to slip my hand into his coat pocket. It was warm. And all of a sudden it didn't feel like it was even cold anymore. I breathed in and said to Ethan, Ethan, who's your favorite? Layla. Say that again. Lila is Ethan's favorite. I kept asking over and over again. Until I got to the door. Just before he closed the door, Ethan set me up on the shoebox, dropping thin kisses on my shoulders and neck. Emily, I love you. Really love loving you. I buried myself in the crook of his neck and said, I know it all. When I was 25, my mom had been nagging me about grandson all day. And I was sick of hearing it. Ethan patiently peeled an orange for me and fed it to me. Mom, I want to spend some more time with Ching Ching. I knew that Ethan was just talking for me. But in fact he wanted a baby too. On the way home, he held my hand and sat on a park bench, looking at the children playing in the square in front of us. Ethan's eyes showed a little bit of joy in his eyes. Ethan's eyes showed a tenderness that he rarely showed to anyone other than me. I squeezed his palm and leaned on his shoulder. Ethan, don't you want a baby? I want to. But I'd rather not make it hard for you. Ethan said nothing. I had to do a little maneuvering. It was a one-time hit. Ethan blamed himself when he found out. He thought he hadn't handled it well. I couldn't stand it. So I confessed to him. He sighed and leaned on my shoulder. I didn't think you wanted to. I stroked his head. His hair was shaggy and didn't stick out at all. Why wouldn't I? I love you. It was fall when the baby was born. It was a girl. Chen Yanqing. After the baby was born, Ethan took care of both of us. He didn't want anything to go wrong. I laughed at him for being so nervous. He hugged me and said he was really afraid of losing me. It was summer again. My daughter fell in love with riding a mountain bike. Ethan adjusted the chain for her in front of his house. I felt like I was back at the alleyway entrance and the scene of him looking at me. I didn't realize that one glance would be an eternity.